Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are talking about a book. Now today's book review is going to be over Dragon Atlas by Dante King. Now you can actually get this book for free as long as you join his newsletter. He gives it out to you along with another book. Well, it's an audiobook of his other book series, The Immortal Swordslinger. And yeah, so this is self-published. He usually publishes through Amazon, I think, or at least that's what it looks like. I'm not really sure. There's no label on his books that says published by whatever company. So I assume that it's just published by him. Yeah, so the genres here, I asked him, I emailed him to make sure that I knew correctly before reviewing it what the book was, and he said epic fantasy with harem elements. So this can fall under harem lit, but it's just more like epic fantasy with like non-traditional relationships on the side. And you know, there's a bit of explicitness, but it's not really much or very long. So you know, just in case anyone needs to know, there's no adaptation, and overall, this is kind of an interesting book. I'll get to the premise and the evaluation later, but this book is written in a way that's supposed to be epic fantasy, you know, very large scope, world-changing stakes over a long, you know, long-form book. But in this one specifically, all the fluff, all the extra, you know, world building, setting building, all of this stuff that adds fluff to the books, to epic fantasy, is removed, and he really streamlines everything in such a way that you kind of feel off-put by how fast it is, but you get used to it, and then it kind of, you know, normalizes a little bit more, and it's kind of interesting. I like the experiment of it, and I quite enjoyed the book regardless of the, you know, odd pacing at the beginning, but you know, it's just a thing that I noticed that I wanted to tell you guys, just so you know, before you read this, expecting, you know, a really slow burn, traditional style epic fantasy. It's not that. It's more quick, you know, fast paced, you know, easy to get into epic fantasy, which is actually quite good. Epic fantasy does tend to be kind of difficult to get into because it takes 150 pages to get to the good stuff of the book. And if you're an epic fantasy reader, that's fine. But if you're someone that's not used to that, it takes a bit to get used to. So this is kind of interesting as an experiment. And, you know, it's cool. I really enjoyed it. So let's actually talk about the book now. The premise here is that a young man with a mysterious map that allows him to fast travel, essentially, and attitude, he has a lot of attitude to spare, decides to conquer the country he inhabits, or, well, the continent, I guess. I'm not really sure how large the, you know, space that he's trying to conquer is. And what, you know, it chronicles his kind of adventure from his first city that he takes to kind of like a couple other cities, and then, you know, a battle with a big bad at the end. But this is the first book, and I don't know if he's going to write more. I assume that he's going to write more, but I'm not really sure. And I would be really excited if he did write another one. I was really interested in what this was. So let's evaluate it really quickly. The plot line here is good. It's immensely fast-paced, like I said. It really jumps in. You don't take, you know, 20 pages of a prologue, then 100 pages of, like, explaining the history of the world before you jump into the action. This literally starts right off the bat, really quickly. You're running through this city as you follow the main character, Kublai, as he figures out how to take it over. It's really interesting. No fluff at all, like I said. And I really like it. It jumped into the action and it did not stop. There was some lulls, obviously. There was a moment where you would slow down a little bit so that you could get those interesting character moments and stuff. But then it would pick right back up, and it was a lot of action. The characters here are interesting. There's four main characters, or people that we follow. We have Kublai, Batu, Eri, and Kulan. Now, Kublai is our main character, and if you notice, His name is the same as Kublai Khan, who was the grandson of Genghis Khan. And this book specifically is kind of vaguely, very slightly based on Mongolian kind of culture / history. So it's really interesting. It has a really nice twist, different feel to normal epic fantasy, which is all very Western Europe centric, I guess. So yeah, it's cool. Batu is Kublai's brother and kind of like his second, like the guy that, you know, makes sure that Kublai has everything he needs in order to be the badass, you know, main character. Like his Lancer kind of thing, if we're looking at character archetypes. If Kublai is the main character, the chosen one, Batu is like the Lancer. Then we have two female characters, Eri, who is this like nature witch. She controls plants and animals, and she's connected to the spirit realm. And she kind of provides all of the information that we as readers need to know via her interactions with Kublai and Batu. And then we have Kulan, who is like this duchess, princess kind of character. She's like the leader of a city or a large city-state kind of thing. And they combine forces, and all four of them are kind of like the main band of characters. It's kind of like the Emmons Fielders in Wheel of Time. It's like that close-knit small group. And the harem elements come into play when Kublai has, you know, emotional attachment to Eri and Kulan. I don't know if that's how you say Kulan's name. It's spelled Khulan. And every time I see a KH, I think of it like a ch sound. And I tried saying her name with that sound, and it just didn't work. I'm going to call her Kulan and hope that works. Maybe Kulan? I don't know. Yeah, and then the characters are meaningful, they're good, they're interesting. And then we have a bad character, or evil character, our main bad. Well, he's not the main bad, but he's like the one that we battle in this book, which is Oktai, which is a weird name. It's hard to say. It's spelled Oktai, who is the bad guy. He's very interesting. He's kind of the other side of the coin for Kublai. Well, kind of. He thinks he is, but Kublai is like immensely more powerful / important / smarter than Oktai. And Oktai just kind of functions as a whetstone on which Kublai's sword gets sharpened, I guess. That's such a weird analogy, but I guess it kind of works. The big main bad is kind of the one that really would be the opposite side of the coin for Kublai. So Oktai kind of works as a secondary bad guy on which he practices for the big confrontation, more or less. And yeah, I really enjoyed them. The relationships were developed a little too quickly for my taste because of the fact that there was fast travel. We didn't feel any actual change of day. Like, it all felt like it happened in the same day. Although I think it happened over the span of a week. Maybe a little bit more. I'm not really sure. But there was really clear, like, deep relationships by the end of the book between Kublai and Eri and Kulan, and 1 week of immense action does not really justify it for me, so it was a little fast. But that's also kind of like par for the course of Haremlit, so I understand that it was just kind of normal for him to write it like that. But it's a thing, you know, it's a critique / complaint that I have about the book. And it's really the only one. Now, the world building here is minimal, bare bones. It's still meaningful. You still learn a lot about the world that you're in. You know that it's vaguely China / Mongolia inspired. You know that there's golems and goblins and titan and giants, and that they're all inferior to humans. You know that there used to be dragons, but the dragons got destroyed by humans with magic that basically wanted to overthrow the dragons. And you know that dragon blood had very powerful attributes, and it was immensely magical. You also know that the spirit realm is a very concerning, very dark place that is not inherently evil, but it corrupts immensely very fast. And humans don't have the ability to fight the corruption, more or less. They do to an extent, but it really erodes away humanity really quickly. So you know a lot, actually, even though it's bare bones. So it's a kind of really interesting way to write a book of this genre. So I was really happy with it. Now, there's no art besides the cover, which is really nice. Although I don't think the characters are ever described in the way that they're drawn, but it looks nice. And there's fan service or sexual scenes, you know, explicit scenes. There's like 2 of them, and they're rather short. It doesn't get, you know, like very passionate. It's just kind of, okay, they have feelings, they kiss, stuff happens really quickly. They, you know, get to a satisfying ending, and then we move on to the next scene. It's not very, you know, passionate. It's not very stretched out, which is probably better. It would get really tiring or like feel kind of boring if it was stretched out without developing some passion to it. So yeah, I mean, one of the scenes is with Eri and the other one's Kulan, and they're different. They're meaningful, I guess, and they're rather quick and short. So don't worry too much if you're not really interested in having, you know, those types of scenes. You can really skip them without any worry and without any real effect to the story. So yeah, I rate this a 3.5, shooting towards a 4, so like 3.75. But overall, it's really good. It's interesting, and I would definitely read the next book, but it wasn't, you know, blow my socks off. And it's good. I think that's fine. I think this is a good introduction to the author. And given that it's not the greatest thing ever, it allows us to be more forgiving with the author of the next book, which is actually a very good thing, because as he develops in skill, you're gonna appreciate his books more and more, and starting off with the best one is not a great idea if you want to appreciate the author's, you know, full scope of work. I speak from experience there. I read Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive before I read any of his other series, and it really messed me up. I still like all of his other series, but the fact that I read Stormlight Archive first makes it so much harder to find that like really refined Sanderson spark in the other books. So it makes them a little bit harder to read. So, you know, those are my 2 cents on that. I recommend it. I think it's a good one. Plus, it's free, so you don't lose anything for reading it. And similar titles, I guess the nearest thing I can think of is Wheel of Time. Although that's also kind of like the farthest thing away from this. But it's the only book I've read that has that like meshing of Eastern culture with Western style writing that kind of works together, you know? So that's why I think it's a similar title, but it's not really. The scope of the 2 series is very different, and the way it's written is very different. There's not that much similarities beyond the fact that, you know, they both have Asian-inspired stuff in them. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you do enjoy, please like and subscribe and comment down below. Please make sure to check out Dante King. I do have a couple other books by him that I will be reviewing rather soon, so look out for that. Thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.